Hello, everybody. I'm Jimi Cohen, the co-founder of Treegens, and we are growing a movement of regenerators all across the world through the most rewarding and transparent tree planting. So we're going to delve into those two specific problems and how Web3 can solve them. We're going to talk about how to grow the movement. And by the end of this talk, I think you guys will know the meaning of life. Does that sound good? All right, let's go. Okay, so next slide. So I do a podcast called Max Impact, and I've done almost 350 episodes. And the first question I always ask people is, what is your why? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What helps you burn the midnight oil and ultimately all of the amazing things that you do? And so I'm going to start today by talking about my why and why I do what I do. And for those of you who don't know, Simon Sinek is like the most popular TED talk of all time, and book will start with why. Definitely check it out. But basically, my journey towards positive impact started when I was 4 years old. I planted my first tree. My mother's an environmentalist, and she was cutting down all of these trees overdeveloping in a small town in Australia called Avalon. And so we were planting trees, stopped from cutting down. That's sort of planting the seed for the work that I'm doing today, if you will. But really, when I started getting involved in this, it was in 2019. Next slide. I was watching what was happening in the 2019 forest fires in Australia. Roughly 3 billion animals were burnt alive, which is the equivalent of over 300 Holocausts approximately. These are sentient beings, able to experience both pain and pleasure. And it deeply affected me watching these videos of these animals being burnt alive, and it really brought me to tears. And I wanted to do something about it, and so I launched a fundraiser and raised a few $1,000s. And instantly, I started to feel better. I started to feel fulfilled. I started to make more of an impact. Before this, I literally felt like I didn't have any purpose and had low energy and was in a bit of a dark place. But then once I started to make a positive impact, everything completely changed. Believe it or not, you might not believe this now because I'm really talking all the time, but I actually was a pretty introverted person. I was kind of in my shell a lot. Even sometimes I saw people that I knew, I would sometimes look the other way, just have less interaction. I don't know, very different person back then. But like once I tapped into something, this insurmountable energy, I was able to push through any hesitation to speak with everyone that I possibly could to make my vision a reality. And so that's one of the reasons why I do Max Impact, to help other people, tap into what their calling is and what ultimately will give them the energy that they need to pass through any obstacle preventing them from their way. And so that's what I want for the people, and that's one of the most important things to do in life is like find purpose, find fulfillment. Okay, so we're going to talk about transparency for a second. So for 7 years of my life, I was raising funds for good causes. I was knocking on doors, convincing people to donate every month. I was selling products to raise funds for charities. I was throwing transformative charity music festivals, and all to give funds to charities, right? And I was hoping that they would be transparent. They would give us clear updates so that I could show those updates to the people that funded us, such that we could hopefully raise even more funds and people could connect with their impact, right? Well, that wasn't always the case. One time, I was following up with a charity literally a year later to try to get some form of an update. I was following up persistently. And eventually they said, all right, we'll come deliver you the update. Deliver, just email me, but whatever. Of course, you're welcome. So they came to my office and they brought me a printout. And this printout, this is for a clean water project. It didn't have their current logo on it. It didn't have their previous logo on it. It actually had the logo before their previous logo on this update. It's this recycled update that was clearly given to so many different people. That's the logo. And so it was very clear that something's broken here, right? And a lot more funding would flow towards where it's really needed for the impact if people were completely sure that their money would go to where it needs to be, the impactful solutions, right? The reason why we were able to fund and plant more than 1 million trees in the last month or so is because we are radically transparent. We haven't even launched everything that we're building yet, but we are radically transparent, and that's why people believe in us. We have more commitments to do another 3 million mangrove trees next month. And so this is how we're tackling this problem directly. It's called NFU's non-fungible updates. So we developed an AI tree counting technology whereby we can use drones, or even people can use their smartphones with decent enough resolution to film the land beforehand, and then they film the same lands afterwards with GPS coordinates. It counts exactly how many trees have been planted far more accurately than a human can count. And then all of those updates then live on chain in the form of NFT videos. And we're also building a globe interface, so you can see every single update that exists, and your update is your update. Very important. It's no one else's update specific to you. It's non-fungible and it lives on chain to provide valuable transparency. So that's how we're tackling that problem. Okay, and the next challenge is around incentives. So currently, our economy values the degeneration of nature a lot more than it values the regeneration of nature. That's the reason why we live in the world we do with so much deforestation. There's a very clear economic impact. When you cut down trees, it can be used as charcoal and wood, etc. And so we're trying to tip the scale such that the regeneration is valued even more. And so we're starting with something called Treegens tokens. So one tree is a mangrove tree. And basically, when people using that AI tree counting tool can prove that they planted the trees, right? Initially, they get a sixth of the tree token every 6 months over the course of 3 years. They do health checks. And so after 3 years, they can get one tree token per tree. Now, if you hold that, we're stacking all kinds of different rewards to incentivize them to hold on to these tokens, or they can sell them if they wish. So we're using proof of plant. The only way to issue this token is through literally proving that you've not only planted but are growing the trees. And it's starting with carbon rewards, but there are all kinds of other rewards that we're getting into as well. So this is one of the keys to exponentially scale regeneration. So it's the beauty of carbon forwards. So when we plant a mangrove tree, it'll take 25 years to sequester approximately 308 kilograms of carbon, and it happens according to a bell curve. So the first 5 years, there's really not that much carbon that's being sequestered. And in my view, the purpose of carbon credit should be to reinvest back into the thing, right? Back into carbon sequestering projects. But there's a big time delay between when you're able to do that. And so by working with impact investors, we can essentially sell the future value of those carbon credits in the short term. Sure, it's at a heavily discounted rate, time value of money, and there's risk involved, but we're able to de-risk it in a few different ways. And it's still an order of magnitude more money than what it costs us to plant the mangrove trees in the first place. So that means we can reinvest back into approximately 9 times more trees every time we do a carbon forward deal, and rinse and repeat to exponentially scale these trees. And we take a portion of those carbon forward revenues and we reward the holders of the trees token. This way, people can become bullish on regeneration. They become bullish on funding these trees in the first place. And that's how we can grow those incentives. And there are other incentives, like, for example, if you build on the Optimism chain, they have a grant for 100,000 to 200,000 OP tokens, which is roughly $150,000 to $300,000. But you can't actually liquidate them and sell them for your own purposes. You actually give them out to people in your community. And so this is another award that we can give out to people who are planting the trees through these different grant systems. We actually you heard about Gitcoin just now. We got voted first place in last Gitcoin Climate Solutions round. There were more than 100 startups in there. And so, hey, thank you. I'm live right now, by the way. It's the last day of Bitcoin. I'm matching 2x. But essentially, these are different rewards that we can give to these holders, right? There's also biodiversity credits. And then there's also a whole other form of rewards, which are, it's about social signaling. The reason we buy any brand clothing or use any kind of, cars or et cetera, we're trying to communicate something about ourselves to the world, right? The reason why we buy these things. And so actually online, people see your profile picture a lot more nowadays than maybe the shirt that you wore today, particularly if you're posting on social media and stuff. So that's the benefit of non-fungible token NFT profile pictures. And so what this is, and this is really where I see NFTs going in the future, is something called dynamic NFTs. So this is actually the world's first dynamic semi-soulbound token. So it's actually dynamic in 2 ways. You see there's a light on the mind and there's a light on the heart. So the light on the mind actually gets brighter according to how many trees that you fund. It actually changes and you can influence that data. So it's more interactive and engaging. And the light on the heart gets brighter according to how many trees that you plant, both of which are verified by AI initially. And then we also are setting up a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, that review all kinds of data to give the final approval check. So you're not filming the same locations and back and forth, et cetera. And so it's semi-soulbound. So soulbound means non-transferable, right? And soulbound tokens have a lot of use cases, but actually the most successful NFT projects actually get the majority of their revenue from the resale royalties, right? A percentage of every resale goes back to the project. And so what we're doing is semi-sold out. So you can still trade the artwork, right? You might resonate with a cooler, different artwork and trade them, etc. But those impact metrics, those likes which are overlaid, they are non-transferable. So you connect to our DApp, our decentralized application, whichever profile picture that you select that you want to use your main NFT, those likes will then be overlaid on top of that. And the reason for this is because we're gamifying tree planting, right? We're gamifying it in a way. Like, imagine you're playing pinball and you have a high score. You would want someone buying you a high score, right? And so that's why that's not transferable. We also have leaderboards, and yeah, this is fulfilling stuff. It's engaging. We're making tree planting fun. Like the reason that I was able to break the world record for most trees planted in a day twice, the second time with Guinness World Records, is because I was able to tap into something that was deeply fulfilling for me, and it's gamified. I knew that there was a record, wanting to beat it. And by the way, we're growing a movement so that we can break a new world record, which is most trees planted by any number of people in a 24-hour period. So Ethiopia actually set this record at 350 million trees in a day. And we're gearing up to break that record next Earth Day, which is April 22 next year. And but we can't do it alone, right? This takes a movement. This takes everyone coming together, right? So next slide. Yeah, there we go. Take the green pill now. So this is what Kevin Walking, person you just saw with his pioneering. So this is green pill chapters all across the world. So when you take the green pill, a major pill is the red, there's the blue pill, right? Well, the green pill, if you take that one, is really going down to see how you can use Web3 technologies to exponentially and to scale regeneration, essentially, and how those things can be used. So a lot of people are taking the green pill just as a tic tac, right? But it's a green one. And so these chapters are all across the world, educating people on this technology, growing the movement. There's also these network states called ReFi DAO, who have chapters in all these major cities across the world and towns across the world. We're educating people and unifying people under this ReFi umbrella. We're also involving Rotary Clubs, which has 1.4 million members across the world. We're also involving the official Earth Day organization. We also have 3 points of contact with Mr. Beast, who's like the biggest YouTuber in the world, so that we can involve him and really grow this movement such that we can all kind of unify under one umbrella to make history together on Earth Day. And that will set the regen movement in full swing and in full motion. So I said that you guys are going to find out the meaning of life at the end of this talk. So the answer to that question of what is the meaning of life is actually hidden within the question itself. So if something, and it's hidden within the word meaning, so if something gives your life meaning, what does it give you? It gives you a sense of fulfillment, right? It gives you a sense of aliveness, a sense of purpose. And of course, that's different for everyone because you have your own talents, your own ways of making an impact in the world, but you were born to do something, right? And your body has an interesting way of letting you know when you're on the right track, right? It also has an interesting way of letting you know when you're not on the right track. If you really can't bring yourself to do something and you have low energy, you're not on the right path. But if you jump out of bed in the morning or have a surge or rush of energy to do something, that's your body's way of telling you that yes, you are on the right track. Do more of that thing. And so that's the meaning of life. That's and that's introspective. If you haven't found that yet, I recommend you try different things to experiment and realize what that is for you. Next slide, please. All right, so this last section is interactive. Okay, can I get everyone to please stand up? Stand up. All right, stand up. And if you could just scooch together a little bit. As part of the movement, certain words and terminology is important. So, instead of what people say, wag me, like we're all going to make it. What we say is we're all going to make impact. That's the meaning of wag me or LF grow. But also we say let's grow, a little bit more PG. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to count to 3, 2, 1, and I want all of us at the top of our lungs to say the 2 words, let's grow. Are you ready? As loud as you can. All right, don't hold back. All right, okay, we're going to go for it. Okay, ready? Okay. Ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Yes.
Jimmy, thank you. Oh my God, I got goosebumps for that. What an amazing, very inspiring talk. And yes, so I want the audience to ask Jimmy questions. Now I have two questions. If not, it's here, so you can ask. Yes. Thank you, Jimmy, for the great talk. Feel so pumped. I wonder, right? Like, what's your end goal for doing what you do?
So I really feel like I'm gonna be like 100, or maybe if I survive, I think I'm gonna be 100-year-old person like working towards them. I don't feel like there's like one thing once I hit that, then it's like okay now. Because even if we solve climate change, which is possible, but if we do that, it's gonna be a massive challenge. There will be other ways to make a positive impact. So we have a goal for next April, right? We want to scale exponentially to the billions of trees, right? Starting with 1 million, if you do 9x, like 5 or I think 6 times, then you end up with 500 billion trees. So that's another goal, is like finding impact investors, leveraging carbon forests, scale regeneration, right? But yeah, I don't think that there is like an end. I think this is my life's work. That's the reason why a lot of people say, oh, I'm doing a project. Can you support my project? That seems like really short term, like I'm just doing this little project. Like, no, this is my life's work. I'm gonna be doing this until the day that I die. The final impact might vary. The path to get there might change, but I'm not gonna stop until I'm not alive.
Well, you want to go and plan a big talk yesterday to so that you can.
Okay, yeah, that's all right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jimmy. Yes.
Yes.
There's one more.
Yeah. I got the phone. Okay. Thank you, Jimmy, very much for your presentation. I'm also actually working in the sustainability industry, and I'm really interested in specifically the part that is that it is incentive kind of ecosystem to incentivize individuals, especially normal people like us, to be engaged within this ecosystem. So I have two questions. The first question is that you said that you're gonna update the condition of the trees, mangroves, every six months. And I wonder, do you use like manual kind of process in terms of the data monitoring and also validation, or like the automatic way? And what would happen to a tree token if a tree unfortunately dies?
Right.
And my second question is perhaps a little bit straightforward. So so a lot of people are saying that planting trees is a good thing, right? And we highlight a lot about reforestation, but actually compared with the mature forests like rainforests, it absorbs so much more carbon emission than the new trees. So how would you see this kind of situation? Because we're talking about preserve the existing trees instead of spending too much effort to plant new trees. Thank you.
So both important questions. So first of all, automation versus manual. Right now, it is a little bit manual in the sense that our current process versus a process from V2 is, okay, you go to the trees, you film them. First of all, if it's a health check, they're already planted. If not, then you film the land beforehand. Then you upload to a Google Drive. Okay, you put the link in a spreadsheet. You take the pin of the GPS coordinate on Google Maps. You put the pin of the GPS coordinate. And then a few other data points, and then our AI team takes that video, downloads it, put it in the software, counts it with the AI software, and then lets you know how many trees you planted in, and then gives part of the rewards before and after. So that's our process. But what we're moving towards is an app whereby all you have to do is open up the app, film it, and that's it. It'll submit it off. It'll take your location and all that data. So it has been a bit of a challenge, Google Drive getting a shareable link in some places where they're just getting started using a smartphone. It's been a bit of a challenge. We have to do a lot of trainings, but I think that this app will make it a lot easier to onboard people. And your second, was there a part 2 of the first question?
Yeah. What would happen to tree tokens?
Oh, index. Yeah. So so with Web3, owning your tokens is an important thing, right? So to be able to take them back isn't really our. So what we're doing instead is, instead of getting one tree token just when you plant the tree, right? It happens over the course of a 3-year period, right? So you actually get a 6th of a tree token, right? Initially. And then after 6 months, you them again, you get another 6 for the tree token, etc., until it comes to full maturity. And if they're not there, then that gets reflected in that way. So that's our approach to dealing with that, and also incentivize people with conservation. And yes, conservation is absolutely crucial, and it plays a huge role. There are many solutions to the climate problem, right? There's no one silver bullet. And definitely forest needs to be protected. It's absolutely crucial. And actually, what we're doing with our account, so when we make these NFTs, 50% goes towards tree planting directly. The other 50% goes to our DAO treasury. And so all the members, the holders of the NFT, will be able to vote how that money is used. And I'll have a vote. And one of the proposals that we put forward is to support regenerative businesses adjacent to the mangrove, the existing mangrove forest. So, for example, mangroves actually create the most delicious honey in the world. I will stand by this statement. It's dark in color. It has antioxidants, which means a lot of health benefits. It's very nutritious. Of course, these are natural mangrove forests. There's no, it's organic. And so, by supporting beekeepers adjacent to the mangroves, it changes the mentality of how people see these natural forests, right? They see them as valuable while they're alive, and that's what we want to ultimately accomplish. You can say the same thing about fishing, because it actually filters the water. You can say about crab farming. All of these industries thrive around the mangrove trees, and so we're directly going to be supporting those industries, which directly will help with conservation. In Kenya, for example, you can go to prison for cutting mangrove trees, but it actually happens all the time. I go there and I see these cut down mangrove trees. It's illegal, but you still do it because if you have to put food on your family's table, you're gonna do whatever it takes, right? And you gotta get medicine for your mother, whatever. You'll go at nighttime and cut the tree, right? But if you can get more value from them while they're alive, so that's our approach to conservation. Is definitely part of it.
So what?
I'll create your things.
Yeah.
So, good pitch. I'm going to ask you a question that the investor might ask you, or somebody governor might ask you more. So, can you tell us a little bit about you said you want to get support in terms of getting people to help. So, it's one part of that is community, individuals, DAO, movement, right? But the other part of that is obviously you've got to have massive contributions like the Bitcoin that you need to have that from other places. So, what are the metrics that you have? You can talk about in terms of how somebody who invested in this early on, where do they stand now in terms of that, and what do you expect in terms of growth? The other question is, if you want to talk to governments which have massive grants towards this, right, and public credits, otherwise, EU, for example, what is the one metric that you propose to them? Say, here's what your grant amount will achieve in terms of change or in terms of carbon reduction. You don't have the answers about it.
Right. So we are, even though we did 1 million mangroves last month, we are actually still pre-launch. We haven't actually launched the NFT, we haven't launched the token. But we do have the AI tree counting, and that's why people believe in us to plant the trees and have a tree planting organization as well. So to say what do people get as an ROI for early investors hasn't happened yet. So and I'm a little bit hesitant to give numbers because there are all these different incentives that we're giving to the whole. So let's say if we bought a tree token, right? So our preliminary plan is to take approximately 10% of the carbon forward revenue and give that back to the tree holder. So it costs us 10 cents to plant a mangrove tree. They sequester 350 kilograms of carbon. So it costs about 32.5 cents to plant enough trees which will eventually sequester 1 ton, right? Now, a carbon forward credit, instead of mangrove is normally like $30 a ton, but after the whole, it's about $5-6. So if you take 10% of that, that's like 60 cents, on your 30.5. So that's a pretty big return. So that's going to kind of drift out over time. And the way that we're kind of like diving this whole securities thing is because this is like you actually have to work to make this token, right? It's not like it's just typically investment, though they can sell it to someone else and the rewards will go to that person they sell to. So, but then there's all these other incentives as well, right? I mentioned like biodiversity credits or from optimism changing. So it's not, we're not going to say you're going to get this ROI for sure. We're just going to say we're going to reward you. And second part of the question? Oh, no. We'll talk later. Yeah, I'm going to take so much time.
Yes, thank you, Jimmy. Everybody wants to watch the big amazing talk, and we're so inspired.